Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Eddie Marcus one more time. Little subject matter. How would you think, or how would you feel, if someone said that you were a hypocrite? I mean, how dare they to come to you, don't even know you, and say you are a hypocrite? Have you ever thought about something like that? Have you ever thought about whether you were a hypocrite or not? You know, when we look at Donald Trump, he's so obviously way out there in trying to sell his realness as the way to be, the way to live, at least for a group of people. And that seems to be so diabolically against the way we as a nation of people have been taught until it just blows our mind. And when we really think about it, when we really think about it, are we any different than Trump? You know, it seems to me that the reason that Trump has been so effective in deceiving everybody, even those who are not deceived, yet they are still tramping in the tracks that he represents. For instance, we got an election season coming up. We really do have an election season coming up. This is the time that you have to really speak out, to really come together and do something. It's like an egg and a seed, a fertilized egg with the semen that begins life, and it develops in protective custody everything it needs to develop, to grow, to mature, until a point in which it is supposed to exit that environment. It is protected all the way. And then when it comes out, the design is for it to be protected even until it is ready to step out on its own. The child is ready to step out on its own. But being brought up in a civil society where that continuity of life that was recognized in the womb is recognized in the grown-up period, is recognized in the grown-up period, because they recognize that the true mother, the true parent, is invisible of us all, and yet has prepared, just like the womb we were being taken care of. The earth is a womb. It has all of the resources that we require to survive. Not only that, but to live as though we are in heaven. But we have to be able to communicate with the earth. We must be able to exercise the gifts which we have been given as individuals to come upon this earth and to share it with one another as we extract from the resources whatever we can imagine for the purpose for which we imagine them for. But if it's good for one, it's good for all, because we are a family working together, sharing the love of the power that we cannot see to us, that love to us, through us. That means we are loving one another. That's God in us loving one another. That's what I want you to understand. This is how we get over the lying and the cheating and the stealing and the killing. See, this is when the seed and that egg comes together and creates life. Truly, real life. Now, when you go to the polls and vote, how many of you are going to be voting for the needs and wants and desires of the entire population of this country? How many of you are going to be voting for that? How many of you are going to be voting that the entire country might live in peace, be prosperous and in freedom, and the joy of life and the fulfillment of our dreams, each of us, our dreams. How many of you will be voting for that? How many of you will be voting that not one single family or individual go without food, go without shelter, go without education, go without access to health care? How many of you will be voting that none of the American population will be denied any of these benefits? How many of you will be voting for that? Well, I don't believe that there are many of you are saying that you would be voting for that, because these things you do not want for everybody. You got all kinds of reasons. You got all kinds of reasons. You got all kinds of reasons for believing just as you believe. But your reason is no more authentic than the reason that Donald Trump holds. At least to those who suffer because of your reasoning, it doesn't mean a thing to them. And if it doesn't mean a thing to them, it doesn't mean a thing to the Almighty Mother, the invisible God. You are persecuting this part of God. So, have you ever thought about what it might mean if you were not a hypocrite? Have you ever thought about what it would mean if you actually stood up and represented something different than this which we have known all our lives? Well, understand that these kinds of thoughts probably are planted in each of us, but based upon our training and our indoctrination, we dare not think of it or let someone else know that we are thinking like this, because we would be called a fool. Why? Not practical. Why? These things cannot exist. Why? Because this is the world that we live in. And the world we live in is a world that has been absent the knowledge of the truth of God. We've been led blindly by systems of humans who have come up and grabbed God's world and divided it up amongst themselves, and using the human population as peons and slaves to prove them worthy to be called kings and queens and pharaohs and Caesars and presidents and prime ministers and dictators. Yes, all of that, ladies and gentlemen, in bondage to the rest of the world. And that's what it is. That's what it is. And so the message to liberate you is that you know for yourself that these people don't own the world. You know they don't own God's oil. I don't care whose name is on it. They don't own God's diamonds and God's gold and God's every resource that's in the earth, above the earth, on the earth, that's seen and unseen. But they got you believing, got you accepting it as if they do. All you got to do is recognize that they don't, and then demand through your actions that these benefits, these resources are made available to the entire population. And that means that some changes are going to have to be made. So I guess if you were serious about the business, that's what you would be thinking about. You don't care if Trump is there, Biden is up there, whoever's up there, because you have changed, they gonna change. Well, I think I'll leave it there. Thank you.